Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Zone Star State podcast. I'm Matthew Brune, and joining me once again is Ishmael Johnson and Ish. It's Super Bowl weekend. Who
Yeah.
do you got?
I got KC. It feels weird to not just pick them at this point. I will say, kind of fitting in with the theme of the show, how about the NBA just absolutely dominating Super Bowl week? There's nothing on the Super Bowl going on right now.
It's put the Super Bowl in the rear view right now, like, completely. I forgot until like today when someone brought it up. It's like, oh yeah, Super Bowl, like all the interviews and stuff. It's like,
Yeah, and I was like,
going
right.
viral.
I check my social media and I see everybody, people I follow going to the media day, and I'm like, oh right, that's now. Like, I can't, like, it's almost like the conspiracy theorists have a point when it was like Adam Silver called up and was like, hey, look, can we shake things up? They took Christmas from us. Can we shake things up here and get Luka to LA?
Literally, there's not, besides the finals and the playoffs, I guess, but there's no more juice the NBA has in the regular season than the trade deadline. And so it is it is all that's being talked about, let's just say, on this week.
Yeah, with that being said, I do got the Chiefs. It's a good week for the state. There's a lot, two Texas quarterbacks. There's a lot of Texas talent in there. Nick Bolton, Lane Johnson. Of course, I mentioned the two quarterbacks. So
I texted you this, and I don't know if you used it anywhere, but Xavier Worthy might have the only playoff touchdown reception of a Texas receiver,
which is nuts. Because I tried to look into that, and I was looking at the players. I'm like, oh my god, you might be right.
That is insane, because they scored it, and I have a Texas fan. I like giving him hell sometimes. I'm like, man, when's the last time Texas had a playoff touchdown as a receiver?
From a receiver, yeah.
And he was like, I don't know, but we got one now. And I'm like,
they do have one now.
I was like, let me go look. Duvernay, Williams, just scrolling through nothing. So I was like, wow.
It's very barren. Like, he's either the first or definitely like the first in at least a decade. Like, at the very least a decade.
Yes, at least.
Yeah. So
University of Texas, to be clear, again, not just the
not the state of
someone's gonna listen to this and be like, well,
actually
SMU. No, I'm not talking about SMU. Okay.
Yeah. And specifically receiver, because I do think there was some Jermichael Finley and those guys at tight end.
Yeah, tight end.
Specifically receiver.
Yeah. I mean, I even looked at Duvernay and them, but
I mean, because looking back on we can get to basketball in a bit, but looking back on the past era, like Lima Swede, all the good receivers that I remember growing up watching, I was like, yeah, they didn't do much in the league.
But Shipley wasn't doing nothing in there.
Roy Williams
was the one. He was the one that I was like, all right, he had to have one, and he didn't. And I was like, because they didn't make the playoffs when he was with the Lions,
right?
And then
did they
Cowboys?
Did they make it once with him with the Cowboys? Did they not?
Yeah, I think he had 2 games in his career in the playoffs.
Crazy.
So
let me see. Yeah.
There's a fun fact for all y'all listening for a basketball.
Again, you can absolutely correct us if we're wrong, but I'm looking and I'm like,
bro, if someone finds one, I'm happy to listen.
Wait, hold on. I think I found one. I think I did find one. Let me double check. I think I did find one. Nope. Just kidding. He did not make the playoffs.
I've looked.
I thought it'd be Marquise
Goodwin whole night looking. So if someone finds one, it's got to be someone obscure that just was on the team that didn't have much in the regular season, because I looked at all the top games. So
I thought I had it with Marquise Goodwin, but
I thought so too. I looked it up too.
Damn,
everybody, man,
crazy.
All. So yeah, make the graphic.
It might be Jesus, Johnny Lamb Jones didn't either. Oh my God! All right, no, we gotta get off this, because I'm gonna go down to a rabbit hole here.
Just go around the office tomorrow and be like, hey, can you name the last receiver before Xavier Worthy to have a touchdown reception?
That's crazy.
And see what they say.
All right, brother.
All right. Oh, all right. Mezit's made his appearance.
Now we can start the show. Mezit's here.
Now we can start. SMU. No. Let's start on the women's side, because these 2 women's results are huge.
Let's do it.
We'll start with UTSA North Texas.
Yep. Showdown of the century.
This was the one we wanted to see, and we said that we were going to have the winning coach on. We lived up to our end. Check out next week's podcast. UTSA wins 54-52 at home in the Convocation Center, and it was a game that wasn't pretty.
No, it was not.
Put it bluntly. UTSA shot 33% from the field. North Texas shot 31% from the field.
Yeah,
32 if you want to round up. And it was a game that I think can most aptly be described by the difference in the two star players here. And this obviously isn't the only difference, but Jordan Jenkins on one side versus Tamisha Lampkin, two all-conference first-team players, arguably the two best players in the conference. Jordan Jenkins ends the game 26 points, 8 rebounds, 7 of 18 shooting, not great, but 12 of 15 from the free throw line.
Yeah.
On the other side, Tamisha Lampkin was shut down by her and Adara Udo, who plays a lot of the 5 for them. So it was kind of going back and forth. But Tamisha Lampkin, 5 points, 2 of 5 shooting, 16 rebounds, which is huge, but only 1 of 4 from the free throw line, including, I think, a couple misses in the fourth quarter and 5 turnovers. So if you start the differences in this game, it's not just 1-to-1, Jenkins to Lampkin. Like I said, Adara Udo is better than anybody North Texas has in the front court as well. But that's kind of where I start evaluating.
Yeah, no, I think so too. We should mention how this game ended. Was I think UTSA had a 3-point lead with 20 seconds left. I think Ariana Hardaway hit she had a great game by the way.
Hardaway had a couple shots, I think, when they were down 1.
Yeah.
And she had, I think, 2 mid-range jumpers that I was like, oh, those are about as good of a look as you can get out of a ball screen with Lampkin.
So she hit the layup to cut it to 1.
She hit yes.
And then I think UNT missed, or UTSA missed a free throw or somehow they got the ball. UNT got the ball.
I just watched it here. I just watched it back. I can tell. Yeah. I can recite it, I think. Yes, they got a layup, and then they were down 3. No, so they were up 52-50. They missed the shot, foul, split, so 53-50. Yep. And then they go get the 2, like you said, the layup to cut it to 1. And then they get it, and Hardaway had a mid-range jumper, missed. They get the rebound, call timeout, another mid-range jumper, missed. And I'm like, you got to make a shot at some point. You got to make a shot. And
exactly. then those were really good looks. Jenkins had splits the other 2 on the other side.
Yeah.
And then, of course, they get the closeout block. UTSA does, which I think was, again, at that point, it's like you're just trying to get up a shot. So, I forgot who it might have been. I didn't remember who put it up. Was it Wooten or something? I can't remember who got the last shot.
It was Wooten or something. There was 4 seconds left. So and in the women's game you can advance, unlike the
right.
So it's a lot of time, 4 seconds.
Yeah. And so Wooten tried. I think it was Wooten that tried to get up a one-legged, something, could put something up basically. And it was great defense, honestly, from UTSA. I didn't remember who got the block exactly, but it was the game that you probably would bet on UTSA winning, right? If you saw that score and you saw the box score, you would be like, oh yeah, UTSA won that. You would without knowing who won, right? If you just saw the numbers and just analyzed it, you'd be like, oh yeah, UTSA, that was a game that they win. Maya Linton, by the way, that was Maya Linton that had the game-winning block. It was, if you would have told me that UTSA did not make a 3, a single 3 in this game, by the way, I was like, oh, no, don't get me wrong. UTSA is not the best shooting team, but any team that doesn't make a 3-pointer, oh yeah, they're going to lose the game. That's just how typical math works in your mind. It just didn't matter. The game was that sloppy to where the little that they got inside, because again, it wasn't like UNT put up more shots, right? UNT hit a couple more threes. UNT, I believe, got to the line I think it might have been split.
24.
But there was no UTSA dominated X. But like you mentioned, when it came down to the best players, Jacqueline Moore, Tamisha Lampkin, they weren't the ones that UNT had to rely on, and UTSA was able to rely on Jordan Jenkins and Adara Udo when they needed to. Nina DeLeon Negron didn't really have a great game, right? She had 7 turnovers to 3 assists. She didn't have a single field goal. She didn't have a single field goal. Her 1 point came on the free throw. So it was I would love to see a rematch of this game, because this felt like UNT almost stealing one in a game that I wouldn't have expected them to win.
Yeah, it's hard to evaluate separating.
I wouldn't have expected. Similar the style of game. I wouldn't have expected this to be close for them.
Yeah, it's hard to separate these two on paper. Like you said, all the stats are just really even. It's not even that UTSA didn't make a 3, because I've seen teams not make a 3, but in the women's game, they shot 18 of them.
Right.
So it's not
they were looking for shots.
There's a difference between 0-8 and 0-18.
Yeah.
That's a huge difference here. So when you take that away, you end up with a lot of Jenkins and a lot of Udo, and I think that's just too much for North Texas and a lot of stretches, because North Texas is, even though they are based around Lampkin, they're still based around their guards, and a lot they are centered around Kyla Deck and Ariana Hardaway and Jacqueline Moore. Like you said, they are much more of a guard team than UTSA is, and so like you said, when you get these results where both teams shoot 30-something% and have a bunch of turnovers and don't hit threes, I would lean UTSA as well, because we have Jordan Jenkins and Idara Udo. Those two are just difference makers in that way on the glass and getting you second chance points and so on. I mean, both of them had 2 blocks as well. So I will say Jordan Jenkins wasn't the most efficient, but in the fourth quarter, I think with like 3 minutes left or so, she had like back-to-back buckets, and you're like, okay, again, she's kind of the difference at times here. So huge win for UTSA. 10-1 now, 2 games up on North Texas. Let me pull up the AAC standings real quick, just to I think USF's still at 2 losses, if I'm not mistaken.
I think it sounds right.
So UTSA is obviously in the clear there. Yeah, it's UTSA 10-1, USF 8-2, Tulane 8-3, North Texas 8-3.
Yeah.
So
I think
there's
we'll talk to Karen Aston on this on Monday. She mentioned after the game, which I think is a good summary of it. You mentioned there's still not much separating these teams, and she said after the game, I thought this was a really, really well scouted game. I thought both teams were well prepared. It was just a dogfight because of how well both teams were prepared. I told them at halftime it would just be a defensive battle. We felt bad about our mistakes, but we were forcing the same ones on the other end. So I felt like it was going to boil down to some really, really small things, and somebody just decided to grit it out. I thought we would make more. She says, I actually thought we'd make more shots than we did, but I think she then went on to credit UNT to be like, they knew what our go-tos were. We knew what their go-tos were. And it was just kind of like, again, a Desiree Wooten block is what separates this game, or, a wide open miss from Ariana Hardaway from mid-range is what separates this game. And it was like, sometimes those games just come down to that.
Yeah, it's when do they play again? I don't know let me look up UTSA's schedule, but that's if North Texas, and I think this game means a lot more for North Texas than UTSA. Like, I think UTSA has the resilience and has multiple years. Like, this is year 4
that's
on the
That's the only game they play.
Yeah. So I just feel like Karen Aston and them have a stronger foundation right now. This is only year 2 under Coach Burton.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, the reason why we have these expectations is because how well Burton did in year 1.
It's crazy. And it's like, okay, North Texas in year 2, it's a lot of the same team as last year. You add Kyla Deck and some other pieces, but they're still, I think, figuring it out in a lot of ways. Sure. And so you now go on the road against the best team in the conference, which I'm comfortable saying UTSA is the best team now, even though they lost to USF earlier. And you get in this kind of dogfight, it is hard, hard to win that. So I don't take too much of it. I wasn't expecting North Texas to win the conference. I think UTSA was our expectation going into the year. So it doesn't really shock me. It was just like, damn, this was a game between 2 teams that I think if they play a 7-game series, I think it goes 7.
Yeah, I was about to say that's a good way to put it.
I'm looking at it now. Yeah, we had UTSA 11-7 in conference, and North Texas 10-8. So we undersold both of them.
Yeah, that's
Jesus. I think we like being on the conservative side.
Yeah, just because I think we both liked. Of course, we both liked UTSA, but it's like they hadn't been that dominant.
Yeah, and they didn't add a ton, and so it's like, all right, how are they going to take the next, with USF and all these teams? How are they going to take that step up? And they did.
Yeah,
they did, especially with Rice not being as good as we thought they'd be, and so on. So, okay, flipping it to another women's game that is a huge result here. TCU women lose to Kansas State, 59-50. I have a lot of takeaways from this game, at a micro level, I guess.
By the way, with Kansas State without Ayoka Lee.
Yes, Kansas State without Ayoka Lee at Kansas State.
Yeah.
59-50. is jarring because TCU has the best offense in the Big 12. And so you expect them to just put up 65 like in their sleep, and they're held to 50. Like where do you want to start here? Because I have a couple points I want to get to as well.
I think that this was a game that, I mean, is it fair to say this is the first like disappointing Haley Van Lith game?
Yes, because I looked it up. I saw someone on our LSU message board actually was like, because they're talking about how good Haley Van Lith had been at TCU, and someone was like, well, she played a good team and just lost to Kansas State, and I looked it up and I was like, in her 6 ranked games, including Kansas State, she's averaging, I think it was 19.5 points, 6 assists, and shooting 45% from the field. So it's pretty much the same, like statistically at season, with the points a little bit higher. So like I don't know if I buy into like the difficult, like she scored 21 on South Carolina. And
I was about to say she was the only one doing anything versus South Carolina.
I think she's ready for it. Like I don't think she's afraid of it. I just think this was a bad game from her. And when you pair that with like Prince didn't really give them a ton, like nobody
Connor was off from, I mean, she was okay from 3, but like outside of 3 points, like what she had like a couple 2 or 3 threes, like she was kind of off today too.
That's the problem, is that like it's like Haley Van Lith is on a great team. I think she's a great number 2.
Yeah.
And I don't want that to sound like I'm demeaning her, because we know how great Haley Van Lith is. But on a team that is a top 10 team in the country that wants to be in contention for an Elite 8, Final Four, all that stuff. And obviously she made a deep run with Louisville. But I think in this version of her and this team, I think she's a great number 2. And when the number 1, Sedona Prince, only has 14 points and 11 rebounds, 4 turnovers, and then a lot more is on Haley, she just wasn't able to step up. So, but I do think it's fair to say it was not a good game.
I mean, like I said, I think it's her first like truly disappointing game. Like I don't think that's I think that's a credit to how consistent she's been. We mentioned more consistent than Sedona. Of course, Sedona's ceiling has been what it is, but I think the guard play, I think it shows the limitations of this. Again, it wasn't like they got dominated, but like you mentioned, the fashion in which they lost, the fact that they're such a good offensive team, but you see how much stops when Sedona's not on her A game, right? You see how much rotation stops, because like they had to rely on Aaliyah Robertson to be a kind of a Roberson to be kind of a 3-point threat, because Madison Connor kind of was the only other one, and it was like, okay, well, they weren't really shooting that well from 3. Prince, of course, she's typically, the offense kind of goes through her, but like you mentioned, she had a lot of turnovers, and Haley kind of felt, I think, at times to kind of initiate. And the other thing is, like, they also couldn't really, it wasn't a dominating scoring effort, but like Serena Sundell, like, was kind of the reason for Kansas State. And like, I look at that backcourt and I'm like, I don't see I don't see a defender who would have been like, she should have stopped Sundell, right? And it was like, and so the disappointing part is, obviously this is Kansas State that's going to get better with Aoka Lee, but like, when you can't stop their number 2, it's like, okay, that's a problem. Like that's where I come in, where it's like, like Serena Sundell's not even like their scorer; she's their distributor. So like the fact that she was able to kind of just pop off and just like be a menace, it was like, okay, that's a bit of a problem.
Yeah. I have 2 points. Well, I have a lot of points actually from this. The first one being just watching the game. It's a team that is really reliant on their system in a lot, which is not a bad thing. Mark Campbell has done a tremendous job. He's a great coach. And these like Van Lith and Sedona and Connor and them have thrived in this system. Kansas State took them out of their system, I think, too much, and they were stuck in like late clock situations. And
that's a good point.
They're not great like passers, when like Van Lith and Connor aren't great like passers just on the fly. I feel like a lot of it's like kind of in your rhythm. So they end the game with 17 turnovers and 10 assists. That was my first one. And then the second is, it really strikes you that they don't get to the free throw line a ton when things get tough, because I think they're like 180th in the country in free throw rate. They're 5th in the conference play, which is fine. But like when things get tough, it doesn't feel like they're just like, all right, we can get to the line, slow it down, stop the game. They went 7 of 13 at the free throw line last night, and or in this loss, and you're like, it would be great if Sedona or someone else could get to that line 8, 7, 6 times. And as a team, they just don't really do that. So that's kind of my whole thing. And the last thing I will say, to your point of the defense, did you know they are dead last in the Big 12 in steals per game and forcing turnovers? Like they don't turn people over, so you don't. It's like if you're not forcing turnovers and getting out on the break and stuff, it's so much like half court, run your system and get great looks, which they do. But then Kansas State is a really good defense. South Carolina is a really good defense. Like these teams just take you out of it, and it's kind of, it's not one dimensional, but it's just really tough whenever you face those teams.
And I should mention, like, Sundell, I think the one thing that I'm very interested to see how they handle going forward. Sundell was able to like post up from the perimeter. Like she kind of posted up Agnes Eminopu quite a bit of times. And I was like, oh, they must have saw something that like
Van Lith got posted up. Well, when was that? The fourth quarter, like the mid-fourth quarter, I think.
And again, like not every guard's going to be able to do that skillfully. Yeah. Like Sundell was able to really, really be effective there. But like, I do wonder if it's like, if they do think that, I mean, I don't know, because Eminopu is not, a small guard. No. So like, I don't know, maybe it was just a matchup thing with Sundell, and they were just like, you can work this, how kind of Darren Williams used to post people up as a guard. Maybe that was just a matchup thing, but I noticed, I was like, man, they're going to her like a lot in the post, or she was ending up in the post. Like I saw like 4 or 5 possessions.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. Interesting loss. I don't think it changes too much from TCU's perspective. Maybe it drops them out of the top 10. I don't even know if they were in the top 10 going into this, but we'll get to the bracketology later. I'm interested to see like how their bracket works out, because there's a very distinct path for TCU to get to the Final Four. Like they need to be in Notre Dame's region, like so on and so forth. You don't want to be in South Carolina and so on. So we'll talk about all that in a bit. On the men's side, just one game or one team I wanted to highlight here. SMU is now 9-3 in the ACC, and the more I watch them, the more I'm like, okay, they're firmly 4th or 5th in the ACC, and then there's a pretty significant drop off after them. Like the teams that they've beaten along this winning streak here of 4 games, like NC State, Cal, Stanford, Virginia Tech, good wins. Like none of them are like terrible, but like they're way better than all of them. But then again, you get back to the top teams and they're not better than them. So they're at this comfortable spot. Yeah. And I don't want to make it sound like that's demeaning, but it is kind of just where they are. They're on the bubble. Yeah. For what it's worth. So.
Right. I mean, like, I think I love watching them, like just flat out. Like they are very fun to watch. It's very much, I think they lead the conference in tempo, or like average shortness of possession length. They're very deep. They have one of the highest scoring benches in the conference. So like that's one thing that I'm like still very, very surprised by, and like impressed by, I should say, is how quickly you gonna stay up or you gonna go down? What's up? By how quickly they've been able to adapt to that level. And yeah, like I think right now, like we were worried, we kind of always had the asterisk on them. We're like, okay, cool, they're doing good in the conference, but like, is it a tournament team? We're like, probably not, so it's like they're on the bubble. Like if they keep beating the teams that, like, let's say they beat every team except for the obvious ones in the ACC, Duke, Louisville, I know they struggle against UNC. So let's just say, let's put those 3, right? They struggle against all of them, all the conference, they beat, or, let's say they beat all of them except those 3.
Yeah.
That's a tournament team. Like they're in the tournament. And so it almost doesn't matter if they're like, what are they now? 4th and 4th, 5th best team in the conference. It doesn't matter, because that's still good enough. Last year we saw, like, if you ask me right now, could this team get hot in the ACC tournament? And like, if Duke loses on the other side, all of a sudden we have an NC State situation. Yeah, that's not out of the realm of possibility.
Yeah, I agree. I think the upcoming games for them, they have a little time off. They play Pitt on February 11th, which Pitt's fallen off somehow.
Yeah.
They're 5-6 in conference, and I think that's
I think they're favored in every game the rest of the way because they avoid Duke, UNC, and Louisville.
Yeah, and then they get Clemson at home, which is a big one.
That's a massive one.
So it's Pitt, Wake Forest, Notre Dame, Clemson, the next 4, all top 90 teams in the country. And I just want to take this moment to say I'm not sure there's not a better glue player than Matt Cross right now.
Oh, dude, seriously. Yes.
And glue player sounds like he doesn't score. He scores the heck out the ball. He scored 21 against Virginia Tech, and he was.
I was about to say he had one steal. It was like in the passing lane where he jumped the passing lane, and the defender tried to reach on it again, and he in the same motion of the ball, where he tipped the ball to half court, he reached for it in the same motion, went behind the back and in a fast break to make the defender miss. And I'm like, oh my God, this guy's a forward. The way he tried to jam on him, he tried to put him on a poster. He ended up getting rejected and somebody got the putback. But he was feeling himself. He put the little spin back behind his back, and he was like, I'm about to throw this down two-handed, and he ended up getting stuffed. But it was that type of stuff where you're he can do all of that, right? He can take the ball up the court. He can get the ball at the top of the key, dribble somebody into the post, and then do a move or pass out. Glue guy is right, but in the biggest complimentary way. You can give him the ball and have him do anything. He can set up a set. He can post up. He can pop out and shoot. He can defend. He can rebound. He's the best glue guy right now to watch. I agree, 100%.
Yeah, high level rebounder as well. He's top 15 in the conference in both offensive and defensive rebound percentage.
I haven't seen his season stats yet.
And he's shooting in conference play 39.3% from three.
Man, so he's averaging. Actually, let me find his conference stats real quick.
Go find that, because I'll talk about some others, but Buki Miller, Oquendo hit 3 threes against Virginia Tech. Iga Toglu is such a force, and I don't love their backup center situations. I don't love Johan Traor or Jerome Colbert or whoever else they put there, but Iga Toglu for the 25-30 minutes he's on the court is
13 points, over 8.5 rebounds, 2 assists. Yeah, I mean that's monster. on almost 50% shooting and almost 40% from 3 on over 4.5 attempts.
Yeah,
that is. Do you remember? I'm trying to think. Do you remember UTA women had a player years ago who was Katie Farrell?
Yes, I do.
You remember Katie Farrell? He's very Katie Farrell coded, where it's she'll just drop a game. It's 9 points, 6 dimes, 8 rebounds, and you're like, oh my God, she was all over that's who that reminds me of.
Yeah, he is. He's been incredible, and the guards for this team, as we know, that's what goes into having the fastest tempo is Edwards, Miller, Harris, Oquendo, all these guards just go, and they play a really fun brand of basketball. Andy Enfield does that. Anywhere he goes, they're just gonna play up tempo and
you're gonna watching them.
Score a lot of points, and they're doing it, man. They're doing it. This is a really fun team here. So we'll see how this upcoming stretch goes. Like I said, 4 games against top 85, 90 teams. They go 4-0 here. They're off the bubble if they go 4-0.
I think Lenardi has them as the next 4 out.
Yeah.
So
let's talk about some bracketology here.
Let's do it. Let's bring up our friend Lenardi and Charlie Cream.
Lenardi and Cream. I think on the women's side, if we start there, Texas Southern is projected an automatic qualifier because they're the leading team in the conference. This was as of 2 days ago. I don't think, when was TCU lost for?
It was last night.
That was last night, right?
Yeah, I think it was last night.
So this doesn't include that. They probably dropped to a 3 now, but TCU is at a 2 here. And again, like I said, the region determines a lot because they're the 2. They have North Carolina and Tennessee at the 3-6. I wouldn't. First of all, a TCU Tennessee game, as someone who watches a lot of SEC basketball, would be absurd because they don't play defense either. They just run up and down the court. So that would be insane. But I mean, I feel pretty good. I wouldn't want them to play an Ole Miss. I wouldn't want them to play a team that really gets into you defensively, like a West Virginia. I want them to play a Kentucky. I want them to play a Tennessee, and so on. So I think this would be a decent draw, like Florida State as the 7, North Carolina, Tennessee in that side, and then you have UCLA at the top, but that's just kind of how it goes.
Yeah.
I would love to see them against USC, even TCU.
Yeah,
I think that's a winnable game. So
sure.
I think for everybody in the country is just saying, all right, don't put us in the region with South Carolina or UCLA.
Yeah, that's fair. I think Cream has Texas as the 2 in the USC region. Matchup wise, I'm very intrigued by that. Right, like I think that's a weakness. That's a strength versus weaknesses matchup for both teams. Right, like I think you have Kiki Irfin and Juju Watkins going against. I mean, again, Rory Harmon can't guard 2 players, so like I'd be very curious to see Juju versus Harmon, but also like. Does USC have anybody that can guard Madison Booker or the front court? So it's like that one's to me a strength versus weakness matchup. I think both teams exploit each other pretty well. Outside of that, like if that's the draw for Texas, I like them versus Duke. I like them versus West Virginia. Like I like them basically all the way until USC.
Yeah, I think they are a postseason built team. Like I'm not worried about them slipping up early. I don't think. Like Utah's not bad, of course, but like they should be any 7 seed that they play here. So
the one I'm worried about,
Baylor.
Look right now they again, this is early, but like right now 7-10, they're ripe for a 10/7 right now.
Yeah, it's Iowa.
That is especially this. If it falls to this Iowa team is good. Like people need obviously they're not paying as much attention to Iowa this year without Caitlin Clark. I forgot her name, the assistant coach that took over. She's been fantastic. Jan Jensen. She's been fantastic with what they've put together, considering what they lost. Right, 2 WNBA players, draft picks. Obviously, the greatest player of like the last generation, the casual fan. And they're still just like really good. So I saw that draw and I was like, oh, that'd be miserable because I think they would lose that game.
And then I don't think there's this is this is strong maybe, but I don't think there's a 2 seed Baylor hangs with.
No.
Let me read the 2 seeds: LSU, UConn, Texas, and well, if it's TCU, I would love that, but they're not going to put TCU in the same region.
That's a good point. Yeah, they're not going to get.
Yeah, like if it's let's see, like one of the 3 seeds maybe. Let me look. Ohio State, Kansas State. Yeah. So,
but like, yeah, let me put it this way. For those that don't know, and again, this is something to keep track of for Iowa going forward, because like I do think Iowa is going to be around that Baylor range, right? They're going to be in that double digit. So they're not going to win the Big Ten, but they're going to make the tournament, and so they're going to be around that Baylor range. If you're a Baylor fan, tell me if you've heard this wrong, before. Iowa is a very physical team that dominates on the boards, particularly top 20 in rebounds, top 20 in 2-point percentage, top 20 in assists per game. So you want to talk about a team built on size that shares the ball really well and gets points inside. Baylor, that is asking for an ass kicking. I'm sorry. That is like matchup wise.
The other Texas team is UTSA here, who's projected at 13.
I am very intrigued by this.
I would love that.
I also, again, not saying they pull an upset here, but like they have the build of a team that can hang with somebody, right? Like they're a physical team that makes things happen down low. They have a legitimate power forward star player.
They do.
Of
course, again, be able to match up. I'm
not saying they beat NC State here, right? But I'm saying that it could be very much what we saw last year, almost with Rice and LSU for a bit.
Yeah, the 4 seeds just make me uncomfortable for UTSA if they play like Kentucky, Oklahoma, and what was the other one? Ole Miss. Ole Miss would be a dogfight if that happened. But like, that range, I think let's just get there for UTSA first, and we can celebrate and pop.
And who knows? Like, if they win the conference and then they go on, let's say they win the regular season, then go on to win the tournament. Like, then they're probably bumped up a little bit.
A little 12 seed action there.
Yeah,
Karen S and them. When we will pop champagne when that happens, because we were there from day one.
Day one,
baby. Took over.
You got to go back and look at those episodes to make sure like they're building something here. That we're on the record.
I remember when Karen Aston was doing those interviews in like the stairwell.
Yeah, I know.
We got to ask her about that on my.
Yeah. Oh god. Probably like, who are these clowns asking about?
Right,
like they won one game last year. Why are they talking about us?
On the men's side, I'm just gonna scroll through, and the first Texas team I see, Houston, as a 2 seed.
Yeah,
I saw them on the 3 line a lot.
I wonder. Yeah, I mean,
they're kind of flirting between 2 and 3. Now they are the lowest ranked 2 here because they're in Auburn's region, so
right.
it's really just gonna depend how they end the year.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's a huge difference in my head between them getting the 2 or 3. Obviously you want the 2, but like as the 7 here, they would play Mississippi State. I think that'd be a heck of a game.
Yeah.
The 3 here is Kentucky. I think they'd beat the heck out of Kentucky.
Yeah.
So it's like
the worry for me, the worry for me would be, I think if they honestly, at least around the teams I'm looking at now, if they drop to a 3, I'm not worried about. Because right now you're looking at Oregon, UCLA as the 6s. Oregon, UCLA, Maryland, St. John. Okay, maybe St. John's, but like I'm confident enough in Houston to like where they're not going to be a team that gets caught like that. Now, if you're looking at them as a 2, then like there are some 7s that I'm interested in, but I don't think they're going to be like UConn. I'm very interested in if they, as a 7.
Yeah.
But like I don't think they're going to do it. So
the 7s look scarier than the 6s.
I was about to say the 7s too. Like Michigan, you have Dusty Mays, Michigan, you have Louisville, you have Mississippi State. Like I'm very curious about the 7s, but like not
enough for the 3 seed. Tank for 3. Tank to be a 3 seed.
Tank to get the 3. Drop one more game in the regular season, then like get like a first round exit or something.
Yeah, throw the conference tournament game.
Yeah, I mean, hell, they might get. I mean, they get Arizona, Iowa State, Texas Tech, and Kansas. So like, there may be 2 losses there, mostly still coming up. So
yeah, Texas A&M projected a 3 right now. I think that's fair.
That's fair. I will tell you this much: I hate them versus the BYU. And like if BYU pulls an upset or something as like an 11, I hate that matchup for A&M.
But then again, remember last year we said Nebraska was going to give them fits.
Good point. They shut that up.
So maybe Buzz has it figured out now.
Yeah.
But yeah, that would be interesting. A&M versus Iowa State would be a bloodbath in the Sweet 16.
I'm front row seated for that one though.
Let's see who else we got here.
Tech as a 4.
Go to the East region in Joe Lenardi's, and we have the game of the year for us would be Baylor versus Texas in the 8-9.
Ooh, Edgecombe versus Johnson. They might just do that just to give us Edgecombe versus Johnson.
I don't care where they end up falling. I don't care if you have them in the 10-11 lines. Someone make it happen.
Yes.
I don't care if it's in Dayton. I don't care if it's in the first round.
Yeah.
I need Baylor versus Texas now.
Give me that. Give me Edgecombe versus Trey Johnson.
And they tried giving us A&M versus Texas. What was that, 2 years ago at this point? Gosh.
Yeah, 2 years ago.
Flying. They tried giving us that.
But A&M messed it up. I remember.
A&M sold to Penn State.
Sold.
And so now it's Baylor versus Texas we need in the first round.
And the thing is, like, neither team's going to get much better. Like improve their resume much better, or like I don't think fall off as much either. Like I think they're both teams are where they're going to be. I think
I'll speak for myself. I don't even like these 2 teams. Like I don't even think they're very good, but I just want to see it happen.
Yeah, because like look, Baylor 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They're 6th right now, right? They ain't jumping Houston. They ain't jumping Arizona. They ain't jumping Texas Tech, Kansas, Iowa State. They're 6th. The worst is they probably dropped to 7, which is BYU. So like. Okay, Texas. I haven't seen Texas. Let me see. Where are they at right now?
The things Duke would do to them in the second round.
Oh, yeah. Texas is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay, so they're 11th right now.
In the SEC?
Yeah. I don't see them dropping, like, Georgia, Oklahoma. Sure, there's, we'll see how those go. Yeah. But, like, they could. I don't see them dropping, like, within 2 places up or down. So
this is realistic. Yeah, this is
a very realistic matchup, which I am all for. If they're both 8 and 9 and they're not playing each other, or they're in 2 different regions, somebody messed up.
No, yeah, they're 100% going to play each other.
Yeah.
if that ends up happening, if they do that. I'm trying to see. Texas Southern is supposed to be in here. Well, no, Southern is in here.
I was about to say Southern now, yeah.
But Texas Southern was going to be in there, but they lost to the second worst team in the SWAC, Arkansas Pine Bluff, who had not won a game. So our dreams might be dead until the tournament,
until Johnny Jones time, baby.
The regular season title is probably out the window though for Johnny. Yeah, but he doesn't care about that.
No.
Like we said, SMU's on the bubble, next 4 out. We'll see how these next 4 games go. And I think that's all the Texas teams.
Nope, Tech at 4.
Oh, I completely missed Texas Tech.
Tech at 4, Midwest region in Indianapolis. A draw, I think it's kind of unfair because they get Illinois. They would get Illinois as a 5. I think it's really tough. If I'm being honest, that might be the worst draw for them to get, because Missouri, Ole Miss, and Arizona are the other 5s, and I think I like them in all those matchups. Illinois would be a tough draw as a 5 coming out.
But if there's a 1 seed that you would want Tech to play, it would be Alabama, right? I don't want to play Tennessee. I don't want to play Auburn, and I don't want to play Duke. I'd rather play Alabama if possible.
Outside of the second round, ironically, this isn't a bad region as a whole.
I was gonna say, if they could just get through.
Purdue is a 2. Yeah, Purdue is a 2. Marquette is a 3. Maryland is a 6.
Oh, bro, I'm putting them in the Final Four.
Honestly, they might be a Final Four. If this was their region, they might be a Final Four pick for me.
I was started formulating the Final Four path when they beat Houston in my head. I was like, okay, as long as they don't get Auburn, and as long as they don't have to play Houston again as like a 2 seed or something like that, 3 seed.
Well, here's the thing: like Tech's a team. We just talked about resume. Tech's a team that could up the resume a bit. Right now, they are sitting at 3rd. They get Arizona next this Saturday, and then they get Houston again. Yeah. Of course, again, we'll see how they have to keep the course with the other teams that they play, right? They have to beat the Arizona States of the world, the TCU. They have to stay the course. But, like, there is a chance for them to work their way up to a 3. Barring, like, going undefeated and winning the tournament, they're not getting, like, a 2. No. But there's a way to work them up to a 3. And at that point, I really like their chances of making the Final Four, because I do think, like, even a St. John's, even a Maryland, a UCLA, and Oregon, like, I like Tech versus all those teams as a 3. So, like, yeah, Tech might be a team that I'm, like, now considering a Final Four team.
I like it. All right, I got to get out of here. I got to go cover LSU women's game, but thank you all for joining
SEC Ocho.
The SEC Ocho. Pulling it up on the dark web. Freebies to get the game.
You're gonna pull it up on DeepSeek.
We're gonna find the stream for this game. All right, thank you all for joining us. Leave us a like, comment, share, subscribe if you haven't already. Subscribe to the Dave Campbell's Texas Football YouTube channel. If you're listening on the audio side, leave us a 5-star rating and review, and we will talk to y'all later.